Hello, everybody, and welcome here to the Wine with Jimmy channel. Thank you so much for clicking by. And here, welcome to a video where I'm looking at the wines at Gavi. For two examples, there will be full examiner's tasting notes, my tasting notes at the end, that you can have a bit of fun and match your own notes to if you wish, to see if you got close to what I got as an examiner in wine. And you'll see the two examples here are widely available in the UK market. The left-hand example being the Ascheri from Tesco's, and then on the right, the Fontanafredda from Majestic. These wines are also fairly widely available in the global market as well. So let's begin, and it's quite exciting because you'll see there you've got the Forte di Gavi, which is the castle, the fortress that looks over Gavi, the place. And according to legend, the wine was named after Princess Gavia. She found refuge in a small town while fleeing from her father, Clodoma, the king of the Franks, who was opposed to her relationship with a young knight. It sounds like one of those love stories. Now, in 972, this is the date. You'll see actually that Gavi, the organization, the consorzio, actually leads with, you'll see it in the bottom left-hand corner of your slide. The first indication of viticulture in the area dates back to the middle of the year 972, and that's in a document preserved in the State Archives of Genoa, detailing the leasing of vineyards and chestnut groves to two citizens from Gavi by the Archbishop of Genoa. Now, the presence of a great white wine in the region of Piemonte that we find Gavi is quite important, because we know that Piemonte is famed for its iconic red wines, and there are some others as well, some whites too, but really the strong link between Gavi and the Republic, the Maritime Republic of Genoa, is very important. Genoese families who had country houses in these lands brought their local dishes of fish, their leaner meats and vegetables, and these are ingredients that perfectly matched with the native and local Cortese grape variety, which I'll go through very shortly. The Gavi territory marks the ancient physical border between the sea and the plain, and the area is located in a politically and commercial strategic position. And the remains of the Roman city of Libana in Serravalle Scrivia attest to the presence of an important trade in this area. So I'm going to look at quite a few things about the location just to show you where it is before we get stuck in. Now, I just want to mention that many videos like this with food and wine pairings, tasting notes on a global scale are available on my Wine with Jimmy e-learning portal. Specifically, the Wine with Jimmy Club, which is a monthly subscription service where you can join for just £3.99 a month. That's £3.99 a month. And you'll get access to lots of goodies that I am constantly adding to. And you can postpone or cancel at any time if you would like. So let's talk about Gavi. Please ask any questions as well. If you do have any, pop them in the comments section below this video. So there is a map of Italia on the left-hand side. See it just here. Okay. And there is Piemonte, which is the highlighted area. And then highlighted there is Gavi, this area on the right-hand side. The Gavi appellation is centered around the town of Gavi in the Alto Monferrato, close to the Ligurian border. So you'll see here's Liguria on this map. So it's actually on the border. Now, of course, it can experience the breath of the sea in this landscape. Gavi vineyards are greatly influenced by their unique position along that border, which is a rather dynamic location, which is characterized by the presence of the Apennines, the large, expensive mountain range that comes through sort of this northern part of Liguria and the southern part of Piemonte. Of course, the Apennines then finds its way all down through the spine of Italy, the country. A transitional continental climate here presents a long and rigid winter followed by hot, sunny summers, which enable really good ripeness for the grapes. But it's the coastal marine wind that blows amongst the hills and constantly breathes freshness into the vineyards. And that gives you this lovely delicacy and often a saltiness in the wines. Some key facts for you for the area. Sorry, let me have to click along here. Here we go. So the whole of this area was established as a DOC, Denominazione Origine Controllata, in 1974, and then elevated to the highest level of classification in 1998. And that's got that G at the end, so DOCG, the G standing for Garantita, guaranteed. The vineyard area is just shy of 1,600 hectares, and wines made for Gavi must be made from entirely Cortese grapes. And there is a strict sort of area that you'll see, and it is the region of Gavi, you'll see here. So here is actually the town of Gavi, where that first picture was from. Then there's a number of towns around this going down into the mountains that are also available to produce Gavi wines. And these are Bosio, Capriata d'Orba, Carosio, Francavilla Bizio, Gavi itself, Novi Ligure, Parodi Ligure, Pasturana, San Cristoforo, Serravalle Scrivia, and Tassarolo. Now, 85% of Gavi is exported away from Italy, and actually it's led by the United Kingdom, then the United States, Germany, and then Russia. Gavi di Gavi, or rather the name which is Gavi del Comune de Gavi, is made from grapes only from that Gavi area of your map. Okay, so if you see on the label Gavi del Comune de Gavi, which is quite a mouthful, it comes from only the historical central part here around Gavi. So in essence, this is kind of like a Classico. There are reserva wines here as well, which have extra age. And just a little bit about geology, if you please let me bore you for just one moment. So the northern areas here are where we find in red these kind of what's called terra rossa, or red earth, red clays, higher in iron oxides. And there are alluvial deposits here, making really quite robust expressions. Next up are the white clays, which are mostly around Gavi. And you will see that that is kind of around Gavi in the central part. This is Marl, which is basically a clay limestone, and sandstone, connecting Serravalle Scrivia, Gavi, and San Cristoforo. Here, the wines tend to be built much more around lower pHs and higher acids, freshness, saltiness, but can also be put through quite a lot of aging in things like lees to give more breadth and roundness, which is quite important. And then down in the southern section, there is more rocks, metamorphic rocks, and these are at higher altitudes. There isn't a big production down here, so these wines tend to be really built around freshness and minerality and floral notes. The key grape variety here is Cortese. It's quite vigorous, it produces quite a lot, and it is a grape variety that needs good sun as well. It has certainly quite high acidities behind it, and often producers like to put the wine through malolactic conversion to reduce that acidity or lees contact. It's also made into sparkling wines, and its thin skins means it can be problematic with rot. It doesn't like too much rainfall at the harvest time. We call the grape Cortese the queen of Gavi. So typically you will find things like lemon, apple, pear, white flowers. It's high acidity and light to medium bodied. Most wines are made for early drinking, but there are some top examples. You're about to try two very cool examples. So do look out for those. First up then is the Fontanafredda. Here you'll see the screen for it on the left-hand side. This is available through Majestic, and I've also done a pairing for this wine as well. So please scan that QR code at the bottom right. And this actually will take you to a Majestic video on poached salmon salad, which is actually from a Majestic staff member, which I think is quite cool. Now, this is, of course, 100% Cortese. It's on really favorable slopes facing southwest and southeast at quite high altitudes. The interesting thing about this and why this is a bit more of a premium wine, it's from a subpart of the Gavi, del Comune di Gavi, called Rovereto, very well famed for producing some of the most complex expressions of Gavi. Now, that won't tell you that information on the label. It just says here in small letters, Gavi del Comune di Gavi, which is still a very attractive thing to see because it means it's from that original kind of Classico area. It is pressed, it's no skin contact, fermented at sort of moderate temperatures and 2 to 3 months on the lees. The quality of this wine comes from really the specific location, Rovereto, which is very, very important for this wine style. Fontanafredda is a very old estate established in 1858, and it's the product of a love story between the first king of Italy, Vittorio Emanuele II, who was previously the king of Sardinia, and then he became the first king of Italy when it was unified during the Risorgimento, the unification of Italy. And that love story is between him and his companion, who is Rosa Vercellana. Let's have a look at my tasting note on the next slide. Here we have my tasting note for this Fontanafredda, and I will try this again because I'm more than happy to try things again. And for me, this had the typical sort of pale lemon color. Now, this is what we call a WSET tasting note. So this is applicable to the level 3 and diploma of WSET. But if you don't do any of that qualifications, don't worry. You'll find these very useful for your own experiments and see what you get. So here is the colors of this. The intensity in color is pale lemon, doesn't show much age to it. The nose is medium intensity. I think that's about right on this wine. I think it's very young. This is the 2024. And then you'll see that's 2 marks done of 7, 5 marks for any of these. I think it's got a lovely floral nose where you've got honeysuckle, blossom, jasmine. There's definitely the core of Cortese here, which is apple and pear, the Cortese. There's but quite fleshy stone fruit, peach and apricot, hint of melon here as well. I get a bit of mint, fennel, wet stones, and then this 2 or 3 months of lees contact has given it a slight bready bread dough, slight creaminess. I actually think the creaminess is being exacerbated by the concentration of the fruit, because this is a higher quality zone on southwest, southeast facing Rovereto, and that's where you get a little bit more density here. On the taste, no sugar. So this is dry, high acidity, medium alcohol. This comes in at 12.5% alcohol. I think this has medium texture behind it, medium flavor intensity, but a decent finish, which is fruit, flowers, and minerality. And that comes through at medium plus. There are 3 marks available from any of these for the palate, fruits and flavors, etc. I think this is a good wine. I think it can age because it's got some good body. Aging is really about the amount of texture that one finds, which is medium here, and then high acidity, which will drive that for a white wine. So I think this would actually be quite interesting with some age. Now that's quite a premium example. The next one is the Ascheri Gavi del Comune de Gavi. So it's from that central area again. That's the one you can see just here. So this is the 2024, and this is basically about half the price of the Fontanafredda. And this is not as a complex expression. It's brighter and it's fresher. There's more of a kind of a saltiness that comes through. It's made by Giuliano Bedino. It's temperature controlled at a similar temperature, slightly cooler on average, 18 degrees Celsius, which is going to make a lighter wine, and then lees age for around the same amount of time. I've matched this with spaghetti, with greens, and anchovies, because I think it just works brilliantly with anchovy. It's a very fantastic wine style. 12.5% available at Tesco's. And here you go. I actually think there's some sort of slightly duller color to this. So I put pale to medium intensity and lemon. The nose for me is interesting. It's not as rich or rounded as the Fontanafredda, but it definitely has a more salty sort of mineral character to it. So I put medium minus or medium, youthful, and the 5 marks here for anything like, I don't think it's as exotic on the floral. It's a little bit more linear. So what I mean by that, I'd actually even put elderflower, blossom, and honeysuckle here. Apple, pear, peach at a push. It's quite linear, green, and fresh. I actually would also put, but I didn't, but I would put lemon and maybe even lime. There's a zestiness to this that I would accept. So this is why it's important that I try these again on camera, because I'm actually adding a couple of things here. I think it's got a bit of maybe even grass, mint, fennel, dill, white pepper, wet stones, a bit of bread dough. I also think there's a little bit of almond. Now, this is often something quite symbolic of Italian white wines. And it might be from the warmth of the climate, the geology. We just don't know. But there often is a signature almond note. And I find it here. Now, almond typically is a tertiary. And this will often tell us that the wine's developing. But I don't think that is the case on this wine. I still think it's quite a youthful, fresh example. But I have put almond there just for good measure. Now, let's have a taste. Dry, high, and medium, exactly like the Fontanafredda. Dry sweetness, high acidity, medium alcohol, exactly the same. The difference is that this is just a bit lighter. It's lighter in flavor intensity, and it doesn't have as long a length. So medium minus, medium minus, medium minus, or medium for the finish. It's a more zesty, minerally, salty expression of a wine. I think it's still good because it has balance. I think it just has some intensity behind it. But I don't think, I'm going to say that it could age, but I wouldn't want to age it too much. I think I actually would rechange this to drink now, not suitable for further aging. This is a more delicate expression of a Gavi del Comune de Gavi, but still quite wonderful expression. Giving you an idea there of 2 examples of Gavi, one which is definitely more richer and softer, and then one which I think is a bit more classic for Gavi, that kind of mineral, zesty, fresh expression. So if you have enjoyed this, please do look out for the Italian Wine Scholar courses at West London Wine School. If you really want to get into Italian wine to a great detail, really sort of immersing yourself in culture, history, gastronomy, and of course, everything to do with the wines, then please do look out for our Italian Wine Scholar courses, split into 2 units. You'll see them on the left and the right, and you can scan that QR code to actually find out more information. I love running these courses. They're really great. You get to try on each unit roughly sort of, I don't know, like 50, 60 wines. And that can be done online or it can be done in person here in the United Kingdom. And don't forget as well, if you haven't already, please do join my Wine with Jimmy Club. It's a monthly subscription service that you can cancel at any time, but it's only £3.99 a month. It gives you access to lots of videos such as this, that helps you really maximize your enjoyment from wine. So thank you so much for your attention. I hope you've enjoyed it. Until next time, ciao.